The night my brother-in-law was dragged out of my niece's birthday gala in handcuffs, my mother grabbed my sleeve so hard her nails almost tore through the fabric of my blazer. Her mascara had run in black rivers down both cheeks. Her lipstick was smeared at one corner of her mouth. The woman who had spent my entire life correcting my posture, my tone, my clothes, my face, my emotions, and every imperfect thing about me was suddenly shaking like a child in the middle of a ballroom full of people who had finally stopped believing her. "Claire," she whispered first, like my name was a prayer. Then she said it louder. "Claire, please, you have to help him. You have to fix this. Call someone. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. Tell them we're a good family." Behind her, my sister Vanessa was screaming at two officers that they had no idea who her husband was. My father stood completely still, pale and silent, as if his body had finally realized before his pride did that the family name could not save him. My niece Ava was crying in a chair near the stage, still wearing a dress that probably cost more than my daughter's entire birthday party. And my daughter, Nora, was holding my hand so tightly that I could feel the tremor in her fingers. I looked at my mother's hand on my sleeve. I looked at the diamonds at her wrist, the ones she had worn while telling strangers I was cruel, unstable, greedy, and abusive. Then I remembered my 10-year-old daughter sitting at a garden table 1 week earlier, wearing a paper flower crown she had made herself, staring at 5 empty chairs and asking me if Grandma had forgotten her because Ava was prettier. So I looked my mother straight in the eyes and said the coldest thing I have ever said in my life. "You skipped Nora's 10th birthday. Consider tonight my gift for Ava's 15th. Then I walked out of that ballroom with my daughter's hand in mine, while the family that had treated me like an emergency bank account collapsed behind us. My name is Claire Whitman. I am 34 years old. I am a forensic accountant. That means I spend my days looking at the places where people try to hide money. And if you think that sounds boring, then you have never watched a liar's financial records start contradicting their story. People assume forensic accounting is about spreadsheets, invoices, bank statements, and tax filings. It is on the surface. But underneath all of that, it is about panic. Money does not lie calmly. Money lies badly. It leaves smudges. It leaves timing problems. It leaves transfers made at 2:13 in the morning, withdrawals just under reporting thresholds, invoices with the same font but different metadata, shell companies registered by cousins who suddenly cannot explain what business they are in. I have found hidden assets behind 5 layers of corporate filings. I have found inflated vendor payments tucked into construction budgets. I have watched executives who made 7 figures a year pretend they did not know what a personal expense was. And yet, for most of my life, I missed the easiest fraud in front of me. I kept believing my family loved me when what they really loved was my usefulness. That is the part I am ashamed to admit. Not because I was stupid. I was never stupid. I was observant, disciplined, careful, and painfully good at making myself small enough to survive a room. But when it came to my mother, Evelyn Whitman, and my father, Charles Whitman, I had a weakness that no certification could fix. I wanted them to choose me. I wanted it with the kind of quiet hunger that makes an adult woman answer phone calls she should ignore, attend dinners she knows will hurt, send money she knows will not buy gratitude, and explain away insults because maybe, if she is patient enough, her family will one day become the family she needed. I did not think of it that way then. I told myself I was mature. I told myself I had boundaries because I lived in my own house and paid my own bills. I told myself I was above old wounds because I had a good career, a beautiful daughter, a mortgage in my name, and enough money in savings to never ask my parents for anything. But independence is not the same thing as freedom. I had built a life they could not financially control, and somehow, emotionally, I still showed up whenever they snapped their fingers. In my family, Vanessa was the golden child. That is not a dramatic exaggeration. That was the operating system of our household. Vanessa could be late, loud, rude, irresponsible, selfish, or careless, and my parents would translate it into charm. If she cried, the room rearranged itself around her. If she failed, someone else had failed to support her properly. If she wanted something, it became a family priority. I was different. I was useful, which is not the same as loved. I got praised when my achievements made my parents look good: perfect grades, scholarship letters, a stable job, a house purchased without help, a daughter who said please and thank you in public. Those things mattered because Evelyn could mention them to other women over brunch, but my feelings were treated like clerical errors, something inconvenient that had to be corrected before it disrupted the family image. My mother was a beautiful woman in the way polished marble is beautiful: cold, expensive looking, and impossible to soften. She cared about appearances with a devotion other people reserve for religion. Her house was always staged, her hair always done, her smile always ready for an audience. She remembered the names of neighbors' grandchildren when they were watching, but forgot my daughter's favorite color unless someone important asked. My father, Charles, was less theatrical but more dangerous in some ways. He believed hierarchy was love. Parents commanded, children obeyed, and money was proof of moral superiority. If I disagreed with him, I was disrespectful. If I set a boundary, I was ungrateful. If Vanessa needed rescuing, I was selfish for not helping. He called himself reasonable because he did not cry like my mother. But his calmness was just another weapon. He could make cruelty sound like a policy decision. When Vanessa married Derek Cole, my parents acted like she had joined royalty instead of marrying a man who talked too loudly in restaurants and leased cars he pretended to own. Derek ran a luxury car dealership on the edge of the city. The showroom had glass walls, black leather chairs, espresso machines, and lighting designed to make every hood shine like wet ink. He loved standing beside cars he had not paid off and saying things like high net worth clients and exclusive inventory pipeline. My parents adored him because he performed wealth in a language they understood. He wore flashy watches, spoke over waiters, tipped dramatically when people were looking, and acted like every room owed him attention. 6 years before everything happened, Derek came to me with a proposal for dealership expansion. He wanted $50,000 as a short-term family investment. I looked at the numbers for 20 minutes and saw the rot immediately. Inventory turnover was weak, debt service was too high, and his growth projections belonged in a fantasy novel. I told him no. Vanessa cried for 3 days. Evelyn said I had humiliated my sister. Charles said family did not turn its back on opportunity. Derek never forgave me, not because I refused the money, but because I had seen through him before the rest of them were ready. There were so many signs before Nora's birthday that I hate myself for not acting sooner. When I graduated with honors, my parents took me to dinner, and Vanessa arrived late because her boyfriend had broken up with her. By dessert, the dinner had become a support session for Vanessa while my diploma sat in the back seat of my car. When I bought my first house, my mother walked through the kitchen, opened cabinets like an inspector, and said, "It's nice, Claire, but I hope you're not becoming one of those women who only thinks of herself." Derek could really use family support for his next phase. When Nora was born, Evelyn arrived almost 4 hours late at the hospital because Ava had a pageant fitting. She brought flowers, kissed my forehead for a photo, held Nora for less than 3 minutes, and then spent the rest of the visit showing nurses pictures of Ava in a sequined dress. I remember lying in that hospital bed, exhausted and stitched and bleeding, watching my mother coo over a picture of my niece while my newborn slept beside me. I told myself it did not matter. I told myself Nora would still have grandparents. I told myself any family was better than none. That was the lie that cost my daughter her birthday. Nora turned 10 on a Saturday in early May. She had been planning her party for nearly 2 months, not because it was going to be expensive or huge, but because she cared about every tiny detail. Nora is artistic in the way some children seem to have been born, seeing softness where adults see errands. She draws flowers on grocery lists. She names every stuffed animal like it has a legal identity. She notices when someone is sad and offers them half a cookie without making a big performance of it. For her 10th birthday, she wanted what she called a fairy picnic, which meant a small garden venue behind a local tea house, pastel blankets, cupcakes with edible flowers, lemonade in glass pitchers, and paper crowns. I could have booked an indoor party place with neon lights and arcade games, but Nora wanted somewhere that feels like a storybook. So I made it happen. She made the invitations herself at the kitchen table. I can still see her there, knees tucked under her, tongue pressed to the corner of her mouth in concentration, glitter stuck to her fingers and one cheek. She wrote each name carefully. Grandma Evelyn, Grandpa Charles, Aunt Vanessa, Uncle Derek, Cousin Ava. She drew tiny vines around the edges and added personal notes inside. Grandma, I saved you the flower chair. Grandpa, there will be lemon cake. Aunt Vanessa, you can wear something pretty. Uncle Derek, there is parking by the gate. Ava, I picked cupcakes I think you will like. Watching her write those notes felt like watching my own childhood reach across the table and ask for one more chance. I wanted to stop her. I wanted to tell her not to expect too much. But how do you tell a child that the people who should love her might not come unless there is an audience worth impressing? The week before the party, I checked in with everyone. Evelyn texted back a heart emoji and said, "Wouldn't miss it." Charles replied, "We'll be there." Vanessa sent, "Ava has a packed weekend, but we'll try." That "will try" sat in my stomach like a stone, but Nora was so hopeful that I ignored the warning. I rented the garden. I ordered the lemon cake and cupcakes. I bought flowers from the farmer's market and tied ribbons around the backs of chairs. I printed little place cards because Nora wanted everyone to feel officially invited. The morning of the party, she came downstairs in a pale pink dress with little embroidered daisies and asked if Ava would think it was babyish. I told her Ava would be lucky to be invited by someone with such good taste. Nora smiled, but I could tell she was nervous. She kept checking the time. We arrived early. The garden was beautiful in that gentle, ordinary way that hurts to remember. Sunlight came through the trees in broken gold. The tea house staff helped set out the plates. There were bees in the lavender, and the air smelled like grass and sugar. Nora placed the crowns herself. She put Evelyn's chair beside hers because she wanted Grandma to help cut the cake. She put Ava across from her because she wanted to see if Ava liked the cupcakes. I watched my daughter arrange love like it was something that could be prepared carefully enough to be returned. At 2 o'clock, the party began. A few of Nora's school friends arrived with gifts and shy smiles. Their parents waved at me, made small talk, and took pictures. Nora kept glancing toward the entrance. "Maybe they're parking," she said at 2:10. At 2:20, she said, "Maybe Grandma had to fix her hair." At 2:35, she asked if I had given them the right address. I showed her my phone and said, "Yes, sweetheart, I gave them the right address." At 2:45, I texted my mother, "Just checking that you're close. Nora is excited to see you. Delivered." No response. I texted my father. Nothing. I texted Vanessa. Nothing. At 3 o'clock, the cupcakes were still perfect, the lemonade was sweating in the pitchers, and 5 labeled chairs remained empty. Children notice more than adults want them to. Nora's friends still played games and ate cupcakes, but I saw their eyes moving toward the empty seats. I saw one mother look at the place cards, then at me, then away quickly. I smiled like nothing was wrong because mothers learn to bleed internally in public. Nora stopped asking questions for a while. That was worse. She sat with her hands in her lap, still wearing her paper crown, pretending to listen while one of her classmates told a story about a dog. Every few minutes, her eyes flicked to the gate. Every time a car passed on the street outside, her shoulders lifted. Every time it kept going, they fell. At 3:40, the cake frosting had started to soften in the sun. The flowers looked tired, the party games were done. Nora's friends began leaving with goodie bags and cheerful thank yous, and I stood there thanking their parents while trying not to look at my daughter's face. When the last school friend left, the garden became too quiet. The 5 empty chairs were still there. Grandma Evelyn, Grandpa Charles, Aunt Vanessa, Uncle Derek, Cousin Ava. Nora walked over to Ava's chair and touched the crown she had made for her. It had tiny purple stars glued to the front. "Mom," she said softly, "did Grandma forget me because Ava is prettier?" There are sentences that divide your life into before and after. That was mine. I had been hurt by my family so many times that I thought I had developed scar tissue. But scar tissue does not protect you when the wound opens in your child. I knelt in front of Nora and held her face in both hands. I told her no, absolutely not, never. I told her she was wonderful and kind and loved, and that adults sometimes made terrible choices that had nothing to do with a child's worth. She nodded because she trusted me, but her eyes were already carrying something I recognized. It was the old question, the one I had carried for decades. What did I do wrong? I pulled her into my arms, and she cried into my dress so quietly that it broke me more than sobbing would have. As I held her, I saw myself at 8, 12, 16, 22, waiting in different rooms for the same people to notice me. And I realized I had done the thing I swore I would never do. I had handed my daughter a seat in the same waiting room. That was the moment I stopped being their daughter first and became Nora's mother first. 3 days later, the invitation arrived. It came in a cream-colored envelope so thick it felt like a wedding announcement. My name and Nora's were written in gold calligraphy, which would have been funny if it had not been obscene. Inside was an invitation to Ava Cole's 15th birthday gala at one of the most expensive hotels downtown. Not a birthday party, a gala. There would be a plated dinner, live music, formal attire, a photography wall, and a celebration of Ava's bright future. Tucked behind the invitation was a handwritten note from my mother. "Claire, all family members are expected to contribute $5,000 per attendee to support this important milestone. Since you and Nora are both included, your family contribution is $10,000. Please send payment promptly so Vanessa is not embarrassed." I read the note 3 times, not because I did not understand it, but because part of me could not believe the cruelty had arrived wearing stationery. Nora's birthday had been ignored so completely that no one had even bothered to lie afterward. No apology, no explanation, no something came up, just silence. Then, 3 days later, they demanded $10,000 for Ava's party. Not requested, demanded. Like my daughter's heartbreak was an invoice they had already marked paid. I put the invitation on the kitchen counter and stood there for a long time. My first instinct was still the old one. Call, explain, make them understand. Tell Evelyn what Nora had said. Tell Charles what those empty chairs look like. Tell Vanessa that Ava had been given a crown my daughter made by hand and could not be bothered to wear. But some wounds clarify instead of confuse. I did not call. I opened my desk drawer, took out my checkbook, and wrote a check for $1. On the memo line, I wrote, "Final family contribution." Then I placed a yellow sticky note on top and wrote one word, "Congratulations." People might hear that and think I was being petty. I was not. Petty would have been posting the empty chairs online. Petty would have been mailing glitter to Vanessa's house. Petty would have been making a speech at Ava's Gala about my daughter's ruined birthday. The dollar was not petty. It was a receipt. A record of the moment I stopped participating in my own emotional bankruptcy. I mailed it that afternoon. Then I changed the locks on my front door, added 2 more cameras to the porch and driveway, blocked my parents, Vanessa, Derek, and even Ava's number, and told myself the worst was over. I was wrong. That Friday night, police lights flashed across my living room wall just after 10. Nora had gone to bed an hour earlier, emotionally exhausted from a week of pretending she was fine. I was sitting at the dining table with a cup of tea I had not touched, reviewing a client file, when blue and red lights spilled over my curtains. For one irrational second, I thought there had been an accident. Then the doorbell rang. My whole body knew before my mind did that my family had found a new door to kick open. 2 officers stood on my porch. They were polite, but their eyes had that careful neutrality police use when they do not yet know whether a house is safe. One of them asked if I was Claire Whitman. I said yes. He told me there had been a report of stolen property. My mother had reported that I had stolen a diamond necklace valued at $20,000 from her home and that she believed it might be inside my house. I remember the sound in my ears changing, like the room had moved underwater. I glanced toward the hallway where Nora slept. The officer asked if they could come in and take a look around. My hands were shaking, but my voice did not. "Do you have a warrant?" I asked. They did not. That was when my mother arrived. She pulled up in my driveway like she had been waiting around the corner for her cue. Evelyn got out of her car wearing a beige coat and the expression of a woman prepared to suffer beautifully. "Claire," she cried, loud enough for my nearest neighbors to hear, "please do not make this harder than it has to be. Just give back what you took." Her voice cracked on the last word. She pressed one hand to her chest. If I had not known her, I might have believed her. My mother's tears were one of her most practiced skills. She could summon them faster than most people could find their keys. "Mom," I said quietly, "Nora is asleep." That should have mattered. It did not. Evelyn stepped closer to the officers. "She has always been angry at me," she said, "ever since I tried to help her. She has been unstable lately. She sent us a threatening check. $1. Who does that to their own mother?" She looked toward my windows, hoping neighbors were watching. "I just want my necklace back. It belonged to my grandmother." The younger officer shifted uncomfortably. The older one asked if I had anything that might clarify the situation. I almost laughed. Clarify. That was such a gentle word for what my mother had done. I told them to wait on the porch. Then I went inside, pulled up my security system on my laptop, and found the footage from 3 weeks earlier when Evelyn had come by unannounced. I remembered the visit because she had walked through my house criticizing the tired curtains and asking if I had considered sending Nora to a school with better families. The camera in my entryway had recorded her clearly. She came in carrying a large structured purse. At one point, while I was in the kitchen, she opened the purse, removed a velvet jewelry box, took out the necklace, put it on in front of my hallway mirror, and then slipped the empty box back into her purse. Later, the driveway camera caught her placing that empty box behind one of my porch planters before she left. I turned the laptop around for the officers. There are few pleasures colder than watching a performance collapse under recorded evidence. Evelyn stopped crying so abruptly, it was almost impressive. Her face changed in pieces. First confusion, then calculation, then fury, then wounded innocence again, but weaker this time. The older officer watched the footage twice. Then he looked at my mother and asked if she wanted to revise her statement. Evelyn said nothing. The younger officer's mouth tightened. They stepped aside with her near her car. I could not hear everything, but I heard enough. False report, serious matter, documented evidence. Do not escalate this further. Evelyn got into her car without looking at me. As she backed out of my driveway, I saw my neighbor's curtains move. I closed the door quietly because Nora was still asleep. Then I leaned against it and slid down to the floor. My mother had called the police on me, not in a metaphorical way, not in a dramatic family argument way. She had made a false criminal accusation and brought officers to my home while my child slept inside. For 10 minutes, I sat on the floor and let my body shake. Then I stood up, saved 3 copies of the footage, uploaded them to secure storage, and emailed one to Marissa Lane. Marissa had been my attorney for 5 years, mostly for estate planning and a minor property issue with a neighbor's fence. She was calm in the way emergency exits are calm. Plain-spoken, practical, allergic to drama. When she called me back the next morning, she did not gasp or perform outrage. She asked for the police officers' names, the report number if available, copies of all recent texts, the $1 check documentation, and any footage from the driveway. Then she said, "Claire, this has crossed a line. Stop thinking of this as family conflict. Start thinking of it as a documented escalation pattern." I wanted to say that sounded too serious. I wanted to say they were awful, yes, but surely not dangerous. Then I remembered my mother crying on my lawn while accusing me of theft. I told Marissa I understood. Derek came to my house that evening. He arrived just before sunset in a black SUV with tinted windows and a temporary plate. I saw him on the camera before he rang the bell. He stood too close to the door, shoulders squared, one hand in his pocket, jaw moving like he was chewing on anger. I did not open the door fully. I kept the chain on. He looked down at it and smirked. "Really, Claire? We're doing this now? What do you want, Derek? You know what we want?" His voice was low, but not quiet. Men like Derek know how to sound threatening while leaving themselves room to deny it later. "You embarrassed Evelyn. You humiliated your mother in front of cops. You sent that insulting little check. Vanessa is devastated. Ava is asking why her aunt hates her. You owe the family 10 grand by tomorrow morning." I stared at him through the gap. "I do not owe you anything." His smile widened, but his eyes went flat. "See? That attitude right there is why everyone has a problem with you. You think because you have your little accounting job, you're better than us." "I think because I have my accounting job. I understand when someone is trying to collect money, they have no legal right to collect." He leaned closer. Careful. That single word did something useful. It burned away the last fog. I looked at him properly then. The watch on his wrist caught the porch light, big and gold and desperate. I recognized the model immediately because a client once tried to expense the real version. Derek's was counterfeit. Not a good counterfeit either. The bezel was wrong. That watch is fake, I said. Fake. For a second, he blinked like I had slapped him. Excuse me? The watch, it's fake. And so was the expansion plan you brought me 6 years ago. You remember that? The one where you asked me for $50,000 and called it a family investment? You were over-leveraged then, and I'm guessing you're worse now. His face darkened. You have no idea what you're talking about. Then you should have no trouble getting money somewhere else. Derek's hand tightened against the doorframe. One phone call to your firm, Claire. One. You think clients want a forensic accountant accused of stealing from her elderly mother? You think your partners want that stink on them? You're not untouchable. There it was. Not family pain, not wounded feelings, not a demand for respect, a professional threat. He had walked out of family territory and into my profession. I felt something inside me become very still. Get off my property, I said. Tomorrow morning, he said. 10,000. I closed the door. Then I saved the camera footage, wrote a summary with the date and time, and sent it to Marissa. The next morning, my phone looked like it had caught fire. Dozens of missed calls, texts from numbers I did not recognize. A voicemail from a woman at Nora's school who sounded uncomfortable and said she just wanted to check in. Emails, social media notifications. I had blocked my family, but I had not blocked the world, and Vanessa had thrown the world at me. Her video had gone viral locally overnight. She was sitting in her white kitchen, face bare except for carefully placed mascara streaks, whispering into the camera like she was afraid of being overheard. I never thought I would have to make a video like this, she began. But my sister has been financially abusing our parents, and we don't know what else to do. She said I had frozen their accounts. She said I was withholding money for medical care. She said my parents were too proud to ask for help, but she was not. She said I had always been jealous of her and was now punishing the entire family. Then she cried harder and said, "Please, Vifok, if you believe elders deserve dignity, help us save our parents." Below the video was a fundraiser link. Save our parents from financial abuse. Goal, $15,000. I watched the video once, then I watched it again with the sound off. That was something I had learned from work. When you remove the emotional noise, patterns become easier to see. Vanessa checked her own image in the corner of the screen twice. She paused before the word medical. She never named a diagnosis, a hospital, a bill, or a doctor. She gave people a villain, a victim, and a donate button. That was enough. Local Facebook groups shared it. People who had never met me called me a monster. Someone commented that women like me always ended up alone. Another said forensic accountants were basically legal criminals anyway. One person wrote, "I hope her daughter sees what kind of woman she is." That comment made me close the laptop. For about 10 minutes, I wanted to destroy Vanessa online. I wanted to upload the birthday chairs. I wanted to post the police footage. I wanted to show Derek at my door. I wanted to write one clean, devastating paragraph that made every stranger who had called me cruel feel stupid. My fingers were on the keyboard when Marissa called. "Do not post," she said. I didn't even say hello. "You didn't need to. I saw the video. She's accusing me of elder abuse." "I know. She's lying." "I know. She is raising money off it." "I know. And if you respond emotionally, she gets engagement. Do not feed the algorithm, feed the court record." That sentence saved me. I took screenshots. I copied URLs. I saved comments that included threats. I preserved the fundraiser page, the language Vanessa used, the donation total, the timestamps, the claims. I sent everything to Marissa. Then I got dressed for work. My office went quiet when I walked in. Not movie quiet. Worse. Professional quiet. the kind where people keep typing but stop talking. I saw one junior associate glance at me and then look down too quickly. Someone in the break room closed a browser tab when I entered. I poured coffee into a mug and spilled a little because my hands were not as steady as I wanted them to be. At 9:15, Elliot Pierce's assistant appeared by my office door and said he wanted to see me. Elliot was the senior managing partner, a man with silver hair, expensive glasses, and a talent for making disappointment feel like a weather system. HR was already in his office when I arrived. Vanessa's video was paused on the conference screen. My sister's crying face looked enormous. Elliot gestured for me to sit. Claire, I'm sure you understand why we need to discuss this. I do, I said. We've received emails from 2 clients this morning. Nothing formal yet, but there is concern. I understand. The HR director folded her hands. Are there any active legal allegations we should be aware of? No legitimate ones, I said. My mother filed a false police report 2 nights ago accusing me of stealing a necklace. I have security footage disproving it. My brother-in-law came to my house last night demanding $10,000 and threatening to call this firm. I have footage of that as well. My sister's fundraiser contains false claims. My attorney is preparing preservation letters and formal complaints. Elliot watched me carefully. Why would your family do this? It was such a simple question and such an impossible one. Because my mother loved control more than truth. Because my father thought intimidation was leadership. Because Vanessa had never learned the difference between need and entitlement. Because Derek was broke and dangerous. Because I had finally said no. But I could not say all of that in a partner's office with HR taking notes. They demanded a financial contribution for my niece's birthday gala after skipping my daughter's birthday, I said. I refused. The situation has escalated. The HR director blinked, clearly trying to fit that sentence into a corporate risk framework. I leaned forward. I will not engage publicly. I will not mention the firm. I am asking for 48 hours to provide documentation through counsel showing that I am the target of a smear campaign and extortion attempt. Elliot removed his glasses. Can you continue working without this affecting client matters? Yes, I said, because I had to. Because my job was not just a job. It was Nora's school tuition. It was health insurance. It was the mortgage. It was the emergency fund. It was every locked door between my daughter and the kind of dependency my family mistook for love. I can. He studied me for a moment longer, then nodded. 48 hours. I walked back to my office with my spine straight and closed the door before I let myself breathe. I did not build my career because I loved money. I built it because money meant no one could trap me. By noon, Marissa had drafted a preservation letter to the fundraising platform. By 3, she had sent an emergency complaint to its trust and safety team, attaching the police incident information, the false claims, the timeline of demands, and screenshots showing that the fundraiser was created after I refused to pay for Ava's gala. We did not claim things we could not prove. We did not overstate. We did not hack, access private data, or pretend to have powers we did not have. We gave the platform enough documented risk to make the money inconvenient. That evening, the fundraiser was placed under administrative review. The donations did not vanish, but Vanessa could not withdraw them. The money was trapped exactly where liars hate money to be, under review. For one brief, foolish moment, I thought that might slow them down. I thought maybe frozen funds, police warnings, and attorney letters would make my family retreat and reconsider. I still did not understand that people who build their lives on performance do not stop when the curtain catches fire. They look for someone else to blame for the smoke. The next day, I picked Nora up from school and took her for ice cream. I wanted one normal hour. I wanted to sit across from my daughter in a red vinyl booth and ask about spelling tests and art class and whether mint chocolate chip was still her favorite or whether she had betrayed it for cookies and cream. She was quieter than usual, but she smiled when the waiter put extra sprinkles on her sundae. For 45 minutes, I pretended we were just a mother and daughter healing from a bad week. Then we drove home. The headlights caught the porch first. Something was wrong with the shape of it. Nora noticed before I did. "Mom," she said, her voice small. Her pink bicycle was on its side near the front steps. The tires had been slashed. The white basket was crushed inward. The handlebars were twisted, and the frame was bent so badly it looked broken-backed. That bike had been her Christmas gift from me 2 years earlier. She had chosen the color herself, a bright bubblegum pink, and tied ribbons to the handles. Now the ribbons were dirty and torn. On the seat was a piece of paper folded once. I told Nora to stay in the car. Then I got out, using my phone to record before touching anything. I unfolded the note with the edge of my sleeve. "You should have paid." No signature, of course not. Cowards love ambiguity. Nora got out of the car before I could stop her. She stood behind me looking at the bike. She did not scream. She did not cry. Her face went blank in a way that terrified me. Children should not look like they have decided their feelings are too dangerous to show. "Baby," I said, turning toward her. "Did they do that because of me?" she asked. "No." "Because of my party?" "No, Nora." "Are they mad at me too?" I had no answer that felt big enough to hold the damage. I wanted to say no again, but the truth was more complicated. They were not mad at her as a person. They had not even bothered to see her as a person. That was the cruelty. To them, Nora was a lever, a way to hurt me, a pressure point, a child-shaped target they could deny targeting. I called the police. I called Marissa. I photographed every angle, the note, the tire marks near the driveway, the camera positions, the broken basket. The porch camera had caught a hooded figure at 2:17 in the morning, face turned away, moving fast. Not enough for identification, but enough for pattern. Marissa told me to pack bags and go to a hotel for the weekend. I did not argue. At the hotel, Nora sat on one of the beds in pajamas, holding a stuffed rabbit she had not slept with in 2 years. I ordered room service she barely touched. Around midnight, when I thought she had fallen asleep, she said, "Mom?" "Yes, sweetheart?" "If Grandma says sorry, do we have to forgive her?" I stared at the dark ceiling. Every answer I had been raised with was wrong. Family forgives. Don't hold grudges. Be the bigger person. Your mother did her best. Your father is just proud. Vanessa is sensitive. Derek means well. Ava is young. I had swallowed those lines until they formed a cage. "No," I said. "We do not have to forgive someone just because they want us to forget." Nora was quiet for a while, then she whispered, "Good." The next morning, a courier delivered a formal letter to my office. It came from Halloway and Briggs, the firm that had handled my parents' estate planning for years. Graham Halloway requested my presence at a family estate meeting the following Monday. The letter was written in that smooth legal language designed to make threats look civilized. It referenced family obligations, estate expectations, reputational damage, and recent conduct inconsistent with beneficiary responsibilities. I read it once, then forwarded it to Marissa. She called 5 minutes later. "They're going to threaten disinheritance." I assumed. "Do you care?" I looked through the glass wall of my office at the city beyond. "No," I said, and realized I meant it. The meeting took place in a conference room with walnut walls and a view of a parking garage. My parents were already seated when I arrived. Evelyn wore navy and pearls, a costume for dignified suffering. Charles sat beside her, hands folded, jaw tight. Vanessa was there too, though she was not technically part of the estate discussion, and Derek stood near the window pretending he was too powerful to sit. Graham Holloway looked uncomfortable in the way attorneys look when clients insist on turning bad judgment into billable hours. Marissa sat beside me. She carried one slim folder and no visible emotion. Graham cleared his throat. Claire, your parents have asked me to facilitate a conversation regarding recent family conflict and its potential impact on estate planning. My parents can speak plainly, I said. Evelyn inhaled sharply. We are trying to help you. No, I said. You are trying to control me. Please continue. Charles leaned forward. Enough. You have embarrassed this family, interfered with Vanessa's fundraiser, involved attorneys, and refused to contribute to Ava's event. We are giving you one opportunity to make this right. And how would I do that? Vanessa jumped in. You can call off your lawyer, tell the platform you lied, apologize publicly, and pay the $5,000 you owe. 10, Derek said from the window. She owes 10. Her kid was invited too. Marissa wrote something down. Derek noticed and shut his mouth. Charles slid a document across the table. If you refuse, your mother and I will remove you from the will entirely. There it was. The old family guillotine, inheritance, the final threat. The idea that I should spend my adult life obedient for the promise of money later from people who had never given love freely now. I looked at the document, then I laughed. It was not loud. It was not even happy. It just escaped me. Evelyn's face hardened. You think this is funny? I think it is over. I picked up the pen and signed where Graham indicated. Marissa glanced at me but did not stop me. Graham blinked. Charles looked startled. Evelyn looked offended, then alarmed, as if I had stepped out of the role she had assigned me without permission. You're not even going to read it? Charles asked. No. That is reckless. No, I said. Reckless is pledging your house as collateral for Derek's commercial debt and then threatening to disinherit me from what is left. The room changed. Evelyn turned to Charles. What is she talking about? Charles did not answer. I opened my own folder. Not thick. It did not need to be. The estate is not wealth. It is debt. The house was pledged as collateral for a dealership loan that is currently in default. There is also a federal tax lien attached to you, Dad, for approximately $150,000. I pulled public records. Evelyn's hand went to her pearls. Charles? Derek stepped away from the window. You had no right digging into private family business. Public liens are not private, I said. Neither are default notices once recorded. Charles's face had gone a deep, dangerous red. You do not understand the structure. I understand enough. You used the fully paid family home to support Derek's failing dealership. You are behind. You owe taxes. And you brought me here to threaten me with an inheritance that had already been eaten by debt. Evelyn looked genuinely shaken. That almost hurt more than her anger. She had known enough to threaten me, but not enough to know the weapon was empty. You cannot disinherit me from debt, I said. No one spoke for several seconds. Graham Holloway looked like he wanted to be anywhere else. Marissa closed her folder. As we stood to leave, my mother said my name. Softer this time, not loving, afraid. Claire. I looked at her. We are still your family. I thought about Nora's empty chairs. I thought about the police lights. I thought about the bicycle. Then you should have acted like it before you needed something. After that meeting, something in me shifted from defense to documentation. I created a secure digital folder and named it Whitman Cole Boundary Case. The name was almost clinical, which helped. I uploaded everything: police footage, doorbell footage, photos of the bicycle, the threatening note, screenshots of Vanessa's video and fundraiser, emails from strangers, the letter from Holloway and Briggs, the disinheritance document, public lien records, business filings, vendor lawsuits tied to Derek's dealership, every text message, every voicemail, every timestamp. Every new attack became one more exhibit. There is a strange comfort in organizing evidence when your life feels emotionally chaotic. Folders do not gaslight you. Documents do not tell you that you are too sensitive. A timestamp does not ask why you cannot let the past go. It simply says, this happened at this time, in this order. For the first time in my life, I was not trying to convince my family to understand my pain. I was building a record that did not require their permission. The call from Nora's school came 2 days later. I was reviewing a corporate fraud report when my cell phone rang and Principal Dana Ortiz's name appeared. My stomach dropped before I answered. Principal Ortiz was a composed woman in her early 50s who had the rare gift of being firm without being cold. She did not call parents during the day for small things. "Ms. Whitman," she said, "Nora is safe. I want to begin with that. Every parent knows there is no sentence more terrifying than one that begins with reassurance." What happened? There is a man outside the playground fence who identified himself as Nora's uncle, Derek Cole. He told staff he had a family right to see her. He has been asked to leave. He became verbally aggressive with one of our teachers. Nora saw him. I was already standing, grabbing my bag. "Where is she?" "In my office with the counselor. She is physically fine, but shaken. I'm on my way. Please do not let him near her." "We will not." The drive to the school took 12 minutes. It felt like a year. When I arrived, a police cruiser was parked near the curb, and Derek was gone. Principal Ortiz met me at the front office. Her mouth was tight with anger. She was too professional to display fully. She walked me back to her office, where Nora sat on a small couch, holding a paper cup of water with both hands. Her face crumpled when she saw me. I knelt in front of her. "I'm here." "He was at the fence," she whispered. "He said my name." My vision narrowed. "What did he say?" "He said, 'Tell your mom this can stop when she stops lying.'" I closed my eyes for 1 second. Just one. Then I opened them and became the calmest version of myself. Because Nora did not need my rage. She needed my control. Principal Ortiz provided a written statement. The school saved security footage from 3 angles. A teacher wrote down what Derek had shouted when asked to leave. Marissa filed for an emergency protective order that afternoon. The hearing was the next morning. Derek arrived polished, shaved, and wearing a charcoal suit. If you had not seen him at my door or outside an elementary school fence, you might have believed he was a stressed businessman caught in a family misunderstanding. That was the thing about men like Derek. They knew how to dress violence in wool. He told the judge he had only gone to the school because he was worried about Nora. He said our family was under strain. He said I had become paranoid and was trying to isolate my daughter from loving relatives. He said the bicycle incident was unfortunate, but had nothing to do with him. He said a lot of things. Then, Marissa presented the footage from my porch. Derek demanding money, Derek threatening my job, the vandalized bike, the note, the police report from Evelyn's false accusation, the school footage of Derek at the fence, Principal Ortiz's statement, the teacher's statement, my daughter's name in his mouth. The judge granted the protective order. I should have felt safe. Instead, I felt something colder. A protective order does not erase danger. It defines it. It turns fear into a document and says, officially, yes, this person has become a threat. But paper cannot stand between your child and a determined man at a playground fence. So I changed routines. I notified the school. I gave them photos. I adjusted pickup procedures. I checked locks at night until my fingers hurt. And then, because fear needs somewhere to go, or it eats you alive, I followed the money. I started with what was public. Derek's dealership had always been loud enough to attract attention, which meant it had left a trail. Corporate filings, UCC records, state tax liens, vendor lawsuits, court dockets, property records, commercial credit warnings I could legally access through professional channels, floor plan financing references, repair shop disputes, insurance-related civil filings. Piece by piece, the image separated from the facts. The dealership had been losing money for at least 3 years. The showroom was leased. Most of the inventory was financed. Several vehicles had been sitting far longer than luxury inventory should sit. Vendors had sued over unpaid invoices. A detailing company, a transport company, a parts supplier, a short-term commercial lender. There were liens stacked like dirty plates. The business was not expanding. It was suffocating. But every few months, money arrived. Not from sales, not consistently, not enough to match Derek's public claims. The injections came around insurance events. A car damaged in a lot accident. Another burned overnight. One totaled during a test drive under circumstances that made no practical sense. A high-end SUV vandalized just before a loan payment deadline. A coupe declared a total loss after sitting unsold for months. Once I saw the first timing match, I stopped breathing for a moment. Then I pulled more records, VINs, claim references, and civil filings, repair estimates attached to vendor disputes, payment due dates, default notices, news blurbs about a mysterious fire at an upscale dealership 2 years prior. Patterns are not proof by themselves. Any good forensic accountant knows that. Coincidence exists. Bad luck exists. Businesses fail without committing crimes every day, but repeated financial relief following suspicious losses, clustered near debt pressure points, tied to inflated asset values, and connected to a man currently trying to extort me, that was not something I could ignore. I called Marissa. I think Derek's dealership may be involved in insurance fraud. She was quiet for a moment. Do you have proof? I have a pattern. Then we treat it as a pattern. We do not accuse publicly. We do not contact random people. We prepare a proper packet and send it through appropriate channels. So, that is what we did. I compiled a dossier that looked nothing like revenge and everything like work. VIN lists, claim dates, loan payment schedules, public lawsuits, lien records, repair estimates, vendor complaints, screenshots of Derek's public claims about dealership growth, a timeline of his demands for money from me. Marissa reviewed it, removed anything speculative, and helped route it to an insurance fraud investigator through proper legal channels. Later, I would learn that Derek was already on more than one radar. My packet did not create the storm. It changed the pressure. While that machinery began moving somewhere out of my sight, my family made one last attempt to pull me back into theirs. Another gala invitation arrived. Same cream cardstock, same gold lettering. This time, tucked inside, my mother had written, "Last chance to make this right." I almost threw it away. Then I noticed something odd. The invitation referenced a guest portal. Vanessa had set it up through an old shared family calendar system we had used years earlier for holiday planning, back when I still believed coordination could create closeness. I still had access because no one in my family ever thought I mattered enough to remove. I logged in expecting seating times and menu options. I found the guest list. At first, the names meant nothing. Then I recognized one, a local real estate developer. Then another, a private lender, 2 executives from a regional bank, a man connected to a venture group, a couple who owned several commercial properties, a blogger named Tessa Brooks who covered luxury events and entrepreneurial lifestyle stories. There were almost no teenagers, no classmates from Ava's school listed as confirmed, no cousins her age, no girls from dance or cheer or whatever activity Vanessa was currently pretending Ava loved for social media. Ava's 15th birthday gala was not a birthday party. It was an investment pitch. The whole thing unfolded in my mind with sickening clarity. Derek's dealership was drowning. The fundraiser money was frozen. My parents' house was already pledged. Traditional lenders had likely stopped listening. So Derek and Vanessa had built a ballroom full of people with money, and disguised the solicitation as a family celebration. They needed music, flowers, photographers, champagne, and a beautiful teenager in a designer dress to make desperation look like success. And they needed me there because my presence softened risk. Claire Whitman, forensic accountant, senior professional, stable daughter, standing with the family. If Claire was there, surely the rumors were exaggerated. Surely the business was legitimate. Surely the family had internal confidence. I sat at my kitchen table with the laptop open and felt the last piece click into place. They did not want reconciliation. They wanted endorsement. I called Marissa first. Then I called Elliot and told him enough to protect the firm. Then I called Adrian Vale. Adrian was one of my firm's wealthiest clients, a real estate investor who specialized in distressed assets with the calm patience of a man who had made fortunes buying things other people were too emotional to value correctly. He did not waste words. When he answered, I said, "I found a distressed asset you may want to buy before Saturday night." There was a pause. Then Adrian said, "I'm listening." I told him only what I could say legally and professionally. Public records, default status, collateral issues. The likelihood that the existing lender might be open to selling a troubled debt position rather than dragging through a messy enforcement process. Adrian asked 3 precise questions. I answered 2 and told him the third required counsel. He laughed once and said, "That is why I like you, Claire." By Friday afternoon, Adrian's people were in motion. I did not own my parents' debt. I did not secretly seize their house. This was not some cartoon revenge where I snapped my fingers and became the bank. Real life is slower and colder. Debt can be sold. Lenders can change. Defaults remain defaults. Collateral remains collateral. And when a new lender with no emotional connection steps into the old lender's shoes, the excuses that worked at family dinners stop mattering. That night, after Nora fell asleep, I stood in the doorway of her room and watched her breathe. Her new temporary bike helmet sat on her dresser because I had promised her we would replace the bicycle soon. Not yet. She was not ready, but soon. A small pink ribbon from the ruined handlebars lay beside it. She had asked to keep it. I hated that ribbon. I hated that my child wanted a souvenir from something meant to frighten her. But I understood. Sometimes children keep broken things because they are trying to prove the breaking did not erase the love that came before it. I walked back downstairs and opened the Whitman Cole boundary case folder. It had grown larger than I ever wanted it to be. My mother's false report, Derek's threats, Vanessa's lies, the destroyed bicycle, the school incident, the estate trap, the liens, the debt, the insurance pattern, the guest list, the gala. For 34 years, I had tried to earn love by being reasonable, by explaining, by forgiving quickly, by lending credibility to people who spent mine like loose change. But evidence had taught me something family never had. A pattern ignored is a pattern permitted. A lie protected for peace becomes a foundation. And a child watching you tolerate cruelty may one day mistake endurance for love. I closed the laptop just after midnight. The gala was the next evening. They wanted me there as proof that their family was whole. They wanted me there so investors could see the responsible daughter standing beside the golden one. They wanted me there as a prop, a credential, a silent stamp of approval. They wanted me there because they still believed I would rather be wounded privately than disobedient publicly. They wanted me at that gala as decoration. I decided to attend as evidence. Saturday morning arrived too quietly. That was the first thing I remember about it. No thunder, no dramatic rain against the windows, no warning in the sky that by midnight the Whitman Cole family would no longer exist in the shape it had held for years. Sunlight came through my kitchen blinds in clean yellow stripes. The coffee maker clicked and hissed. Nora sat at the counter in her pajamas, slowly eating toast cut into triangles, because triangles had been her favorite shape since kindergarten. She looked younger than 10 that morning, maybe because she was tired. Maybe because fear does that to children. It takes the years they have earned and folds them back into something smaller. "Do we have to go?" she asked. I had known the question was coming, and I still hated hearing it. I set my coffee down and sat across from her. "You do not have to stay." "That's not what I asked." I looked at my daughter, at the tiny line between her eyebrows, at the way she was trying to sound brave because she had watched me sound brave all week. That hurt more than anything. Children do not learn courage from speeches. They learn it by surviving rooms they should never have been placed in. "No," I said. "We do not have to go." "Then why are we?" I could have given her the simple answer. Because they lied. Because they threatened us. Because people like Derek keep hurting people until someone stops making it comfortable. Because your grandmother thinks tears are stronger than truth, and tonight she is going to learn they are not. But none of those were answers a child should have to carry. So I told her the cleanest truth I could. Because sometimes when people tell lies about you, you cannot fix it by yelling louder. You fix it by showing the truth calmly, with help in the right place to the right people. Nora pushed a piece of toast around her plate. "Are they going to yell?" "Maybe." "Is Uncle Derek going to be there?" "Yes. But he is not allowed near us. There will be security. Miss Lane will be there. The hotel knows. Principal Ortiz knows you will not be at school events with him around anymore. You and I will arrive together, and then you will stay in a safe area with the coordinator. You will not be in the middle of anything." Her eyes lifted. "But I'll know." I did not lie. "Yes." She nodded slowly, like she was filing that away somewhere private. Then she said, "I don't want them to think I'm scared." It took everything in me not to reach across the counter and pull her into my arms. Being scared does not mean they win. What means they win? When we start believing what they want us to believe. She thought about that. "Like that I did something wrong?" "Yes." "I didn't." "No," I said, and my voice almost broke. "You did not." After breakfast, I drove Nora to my friend Julia's house for the afternoon. Julia was one of the few people who knew enough of the situation to understand that family trouble had become a legal matter. She opened the door before we even made it up the walkway and hugged Nora without asking too many questions. That is a rare gift in an adult. Nora had packed a small backpack with her sketchbook, colored pencils, a sweatshirt, and the stuffed rabbit she was pretending she did not need anymore. Before I left, she grabbed my hand. "Mom?" "Yes?" "Are you going to wear the green dress?" I paused. The green dress was hanging at the Executive Health Club downtown, or at least it had been the night before. Emerald silk, long sleeves, tailored waist. I had chosen it for reasons I did not like admitting. Some part of me still wanted to walk into that ballroom looking like the daughter Evelyn had failed to appreciate. Elegant, composed, impossible to dismiss. Maybe that was vanity. Maybe it was grief. Maybe sometimes we dress for the apology we know we will never receive. "I think so," I said. Nora gave me a small smile. "You look like a queen in it." I kissed her forehead. "Then I'll try to act like one." At noon, I went to the health club. It was the kind of place where people paid too much money for eucalyptus towels and silence. I had joined years earlier because clients often held meetings there, and because sometimes I needed a space where no one knew my family, my childhood, or the particular tone my mother used when she wanted to make cruelty sound like etiquette. I worked out because I needed my body to have somewhere to put the adrenaline. I ran 3 miles on the treadmill without hearing the music in my headphones. I lifted weights with mechanical focus. Then I showered, dressed in jeans and a blouse, and went to the locker where I had left the garment bag for pressing. The lock was intact. That confused me at first. I opened it, expecting the clean drape of emerald fabric, the soft tissue paper, the careful hanger. Instead, the dress lay in pieces, not torn, cut. The sleeves had been sliced open, the waist had been shredded, the skirt had long, ugly gashes through it, deliberate and uneven, as if whoever did it had wanted not only to destroy the dress, but to enjoy the motion. For a few seconds, I simply stared. My mind did the professional thing first. It registered evidence, entry point, locker access, time window, damage pattern. Then the personal meaning arrived, hot and humiliating. They still wanted me embarrassed, still wanted me scrambling, still wanted me to walk into the room looking damaged because they had damaged me. I closed the locker, went to the front desk, and asked for the manager. To the club's credit, they took it seriously immediately. Maybe because I did not cry. Maybe because people in expensive places respond quickly when liability enters wearing a calm voice. Within 20 minutes, I was in a small office with the club manager and a security supervisor watching footage from the hallway outside the women's locker room. At 10:14 that morning, Ava Cole entered with a temporary guest pass and a large canvas tote bag. For a moment, seeing her face made my stomach twist. She was 15, still a child, no matter how spoiled, no matter how cruel she had learned to be. She glanced around like someone nervous but determined. The camera did not show inside the locker room, but it showed her entering, staying 7 minutes, and leaving with the tote bag pressed against her side. As she adjusted the strap, the bag opened enough for the camera to catch the handle of what looked like industrial scissors. The club manager cleared his throat. "Do you know this young woman?" "My niece," I said. He looked relieved and horrified at the same time. People are always relieved when violence can be filed under family, as if that makes it less dangerous. I requested copies of the footage and an incident report. The manager said they would revoke the guest pass, contact the member who brought her in, and cooperate with counsel if needed. I called Marissa from the parking lot. "Ava destroyed my dress," I said. There was a pause. "Ava herself?" "Yes." "Do you have footage?" "Yes." "Do not contact Vanessa. Do not contact Ava. Send it to me." I wasn't going to contact them. Good. I sat in my car with the ruined dress in a garment bag on the passenger seat. For the first time that week, I almost cried for something that was not Nora. Not because of the dress, because of what it meant. Vanessa and Derek had used their daughter the way they had tried to use mine. Different method, same disease. Children in our family were not protected from adult wars. They were recruited. I drove to a boutique owned by a woman named Amara, who had once helped me find a suit for an expert deposition. She had the terrifying gentleness of someone who could measure your waist and your emotional damage in the same glance. I walked in carrying the garment bag. She looked at my face and said, "Who died?" "Something did," I said. "I need formal, tonight, not a dress." She did not ask unnecessary questions. She brought me a black suit. It was not plain. It was tailored, sharp, almost severe, with a satin lapel and trousers that fell perfectly over heels. Under it, she gave me a silk shell, the color of bone. When I looked in the mirror, I did not see the daughter trying to be acceptable. I saw a woman who had stopped auditioning. The green dress had been for them. The black suit was for me. Amara stood behind me, pinning one tiny adjustment at the shoulder. "Whoever made you need this," she said, "should be nervous. They are not nervous enough yet. They will be. By late afternoon, everything was in place." Marissa confirmed she would be at the hotel. Adrian's counsel had already been in communication with the bank's representatives. The debt acquisition had closed in principle faster than I expected, which told me the existing lender had been eager to unload the position. That mattered. It meant Derek's financial situation was even weaker than the public filing suggested. Elliot had acknowledged my update and told me, in his careful way, to avoid any implication that I represented the firm at the event. I assured him I was attending as a private individual, with counsel, using documentation preserved outside client systems. Principal Ortiz had provided her statement. The fundraising platform had confirmed the review remained active. An investigator connected to the insurance referral had not shared details, of course, but Marissa had received enough acknowledgement to know the packet had landed somewhere real. Nora and I checked into the hotel under my name at 5:30. I chose that deliberately. If we needed to leave quickly, I wanted a room upstairs. If Nora panicked, she needed somewhere safe that was not a bathroom stall or a corner of a ballroom. The hotel coordinator, a woman named Elise, met us discreetly near the side entrance. She was in her 40s, efficient, and clearly under the impression that rich families were a renewable source of emergency. I liked her immediately. "Ms. Whitman," she said, "we have your payment confirmation, your room access, and the security instructions from your attorney. Your daughter can stay in the private hospitality suite adjacent to the ballroom. One of our senior staff will remain nearby. No one not on your approved list will be allowed in." "Thank you," I said. Nora looked up at Elise. "Is there hot chocolate?" Elise's professional expression softened. "There can be." That single answer made me want to hug her. Upstairs, Nora changed into a navy dress with tiny silver stars. She had chosen it herself, not because it was fancy enough for the gala, but because it made her feel like night sky. I brushed her hair and pinned back one side with a pearl clip. She watched me in the mirror. "You look different," she said. "Different bad? No. Like when people in movies are about to tell the truth and nobody's ready." I laughed despite everything. "That is very specific. I'm an artist." "Yes, you are." She turned around. "Are you mad at Ava?" I set the brush down. "I'm upset about what she did." "But are you mad?" "I think I am sadder than I am mad." Nora looked down at her shoes. "She ruined your queen dress." "She did." "Why?" "Because adults taught her that hurting people is how you prove loyalty." Nora considered that. "That's dumb." "It is." "Will she get in trouble?" "I don't know. But actions have consequences, even when adults try to protect you from them." Nora nodded with more seriousness than a 10-year-old should need. Then she said, "I don't want to be like them." I knelt in front of her. "You are not like them. What if I get mean one day? Then I will remind you who you are, and you will apologize, and you will repair what you can, and you will not call cruelty love." She hugged me hard. At 6:45, we went downstairs. The ballroom was exactly what I expected, and somehow worse. White roses climbed the entrance arch in extravagant spirals. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling like frozen rain. The marble foyer gleamed under warm light. Waiters moved with trays of champagne. A jazz quartet played near a wall of gold drapery. There was a photography backdrop with Ava's name in cursive script, surrounded by fresh flowers and silver balloons. A table near the entrance held cards printed with phrases like "celebrating Ava's bright future" and "building a legacy together," which told me the investment pitch was not even trying very hard to hide. Guests wore formal gowns and tuxedos, not teenagers. Adults. Men with expensive shoes and women with diamond tennis bracelets. Local business owners, developers, a few people I recognized from charity events, a banker I had once seen speak on a panel about community investment. Tessa Brooks stood near the floral wall, filming short clips for her followers, smiling into her phone as she described an intimate luxury birthday gala for one of the city's rising young philanthropists. Ava had never volunteered anywhere for more than an Instagram caption, but I admired the ambition of the lie. Then I saw them. Vanessa stood near the stage in a pale silver gown, greeting guests with the bright, fragile smile of someone running on champagne in denial. Derek wore a tuxedo and a watch that was either borrowed or fake at a higher price point than usual. He laughed too loudly with two men near the bar, one hand on his shoulder, the other gesturing toward the ballroom like he owned the building instead of nearly failing to pay for it. My father stood with him, introducing him to someone as the kind of entrepreneur this city needs. My mother floated between guests in deep blue silk, pearls at her throat, every inch the dignified matriarch. For 1 second, grief rose in me so sharply I had to look away, not because I wanted to be part of it, because I had wanted once for them to look at my life with that kind of pride. I had wanted my mother to glow beside Nora's birthday table. I had wanted my father to introduce my daughter with warmth. I had wanted Vanessa to show up with Ava and complain about frosting flavors like a normal sister. The loss was not that I had been excluded from this performance. The loss was that I had spent years mistaking performance for something I could earn. Nora's hand slipped into mine. "That's a lot of flowers," she whispered. "Yes, my party had flowers too." I looked down at her. It did. "Yours were prettier." She smiled a little. "Because they had bees." Exactly. We had taken maybe 5 steps when Evelyn saw us. Her face changed so fast I almost admired the control. Shock first, then anger, then a smile snapped into place for the guests around her. She moved toward us with the smooth urgency of a woman trying to stop a spill before it reached the carpet. "Claire," she said too brightly, "I was not aware you were coming. You invited me." Her eyes flicked to Nora, then to my suit, then back to my face. "This is not the time for another scene." "I agree." She leaned closer, lowering her voice while still smiling for the room. "Where is the contribution?" I almost laughed. The audacity was so pure it deserved a frame. "Good evening to you too, Mother." Her smile tightened. "Do not embarrass this family tonight. Vanessa has been through enough. Derek has important guests here. If you intend to stay, you will settle your obligation." "My obligation?" $10,000. You know exactly what I mean. Nora's hand tightened around mine. I looked at Evelyn's fingers, at the rings, at the nails perfectly shaped and polished. Those hands had never held my daughter while she cried over the empty chairs they had left behind. Before I could answer, Derek appeared beside her. "Problem?" "No problem," I said. His eyes moved over my suit. "Interesting outfit. Interesting guest list." His expression shifted, only slightly. "Enough." Evelyn turned toward a nearby couple who had begun listening. Her voice rose just enough. "Claire has been under a lot of stress. We are trying to be patient with her. She has misunderstood some family financial matters and caused quite a bit of pain." There it was. The public frame. Claire the unstable daughter, Claire the jealous sister, Claire the bitter problem. I opened my clutch and removed a folded receipt. Evelyn blinked. "What is that?" "The hotel payment confirmation." Derek's face went still. I held it out, not to Evelyn, but to Elise, who had approached exactly when she promised she would. "Could you please confirm the registered payer and legal host for the venue balance?" Elise glanced at the document with professional calm. "Yes. The outstanding venue balance of $50,000 was paid this morning by Miss Claire Whitman. The event space is currently registered under her payment authority." The couple nearby stopped pretending not to listen. Vanessa had turned from across the room. My mother stared at me. "What did you do?" "I paid the room Derek was pretending he could afford." Derek stepped closer. "That was being handled." "No," I said. "It was declined. Your corporate card was declined this morning. The hotel was prepared to cancel the event setup. I covered the balance because I wanted this evening to proceed exactly as planned." For the first time, I saw real fear in his eyes. It was quick, but it was there. Derek understood before Evelyn did. A canceled gala would have been embarrassing. A gala paid for by the person he had been smearing was dangerous. Whispers began moving outward from the entrance. Not loud yet, just enough to disturb the polished surface. My mother's voice dropped. "Why would you do that?" "Because you wanted me here as a guest," I said. "I decided to make sure I had standing." Derek leaned in. "You need to leave." Elisa's posture shifted. "Miss Whitman is the registered payer for the venue balance. She is permitted to remain." The humiliation touched Evelyn first, then Vanessa, then Charles, like a match moving along a fuse. My father crossed the foyer with the stiff, controlled walk he used when he wanted everyone to know he was angry but civilized. "Claire," he said, "enough." That word had worked on me for years. Enough meant lower your voice. Enough meant do not make your mother cry. Enough meant Vanessa needs support. Enough meant your feelings are inconvenient. Enough meant obey. I looked at him and felt nothing move inside me. Not yet. Vanessa reached the stage before I did. That was her instinct. If reality began slipping, she grabbed an audience. She lifted the microphone from its stand with a trembling hand, and the jazz quartet faltered into silence. "Everyone," she said, laughing once like she was embarrassed by her own emotion. "I'm so sorry. I did not want to do this tonight, especially at my daughter's birthday celebration. But my sister has arrived and is trying to disrupt our family again." A hush fell over the ballroom. It was astonishing how quickly adults turned toward drama when it wore formal wear. Vanessa pressed a hand to her chest. "Many of you know, we have been going through something painful privately. Claire has been struggling for a long time. We have tried to protect her. We have tried to handle this with grace. But she has become fixated on hurting us, on hurting my parents, on punishing my daughter, because she resents the love Ava receives." Nora inhaled beside me. I bent down. "Elise will take you now." "But Mom—" "Now, sweetheart." Elise stepped forward gently. Nora looked between me and the stage. Her eyes were scared but not confused. That mattered. She knew who had lied. She knew who had shown up. She knew who had waited with her in the garden. She hugged me once, hard, then followed Elise toward the private side corridor. Only after Nora was out of the ballroom did I move. Vanessa was still talking. "This is a mental health situation," she said, voice breaking beautifully. "And I say that with compassion. Claire has been paranoid. She has made accusations against my husband. She has interfered with money meant for our parents' care. She has tried to ruin tonight because she cannot stand seeing Ava celebrated." Evelyn stood near the front, eyes wet now, playing the grieving mother. Charles shook his head slowly for the room. Derek watched me with a warning in his face. If I cried, they would call me unstable. If I yelled, they would call me dangerous. If I stayed silent, they would own the room. I walked to the AV booth. The young technician looked at me like he was trying to decide whether this was above his pay grade. Marissa appeared beside him and handed him a card. "Miss Whitman is the registered payer and has authorization to use the presentation system," she said. The technician looked at Elise across the room. Elise nodded. He connected my tablet. Vanessa stopped mid-sentence when the screen behind her changed. The first slide was simple. No dramatic colors, no insults, just a title, Public Statements and Preserved Records. A murmur moved through the ballroom. I took a second microphone from the AV booth. My hand was steady. That surprised me. Maybe because rage had burned itself clean. Maybe because I had spent my entire life preparing to defend myself and had finally chosen the right weapon. "My name is Claire Whitman," I said. "I am attending tonight as a private individual with counsel present. Everything I am about to show is either a public record, a document preserved through legal counsel, or a record already referred to the appropriate authorities. I am not here to argue with my sister. I am here to correct material misrepresentations being made in a room where people are being asked for money." That sentence changed the room more than any insult could have. People who might have dismissed family drama understood money. Derek moved toward the stage. Marissa stepped into his path. She did not touch him. She did not need to. Do not, she said. Vanessa gripped the microphone. This is insane. I tapped the screen. Her fundraiser appeared behind her. Save our parents from financial abuse. Her crying photo, the goal, the claims, elder abuse, frozen funds, urgent medical needs. Several guests shifted uncomfortably. Some had donated. I could see it in their faces. This fundraiser was created after my family demanded $10,000 from me for tonight's event, I said. That demand is preserved in writing. The platform has placed the fundraiser under administrative review due to inconsistencies and supporting documentation provided through counsel. I tapped again. A timeline appeared. Nora's birthday, no-show, gala invitation, contribution demand, $1 check, false police report, Derek's demand, fundraiser launch. Vanessa said, "You are disgusting." I did not look at her. My sister claimed funds were needed for emergency medical expenses. To date, no medical bills have been produced to support that claim. What we do have are public posts, vendor confirmations, and documented spending patterns inconsistent with the stated purpose. I tapped again. Designer boutique deposit, cosmetic clinic charge, event-related payment, luxury rental expense, personal shopping. I did not include anything I could not support. I did not need to. Someone near the front whispered, "Oh my God." Evelyn turned toward Vanessa. That was when I realized my mother had not known all of it. She had known about the lie in broad strokes, maybe. She had approved the performance because it served her. But she had not known Vanessa had used the money that way. Her shock was almost genuine enough to pity. Almost. The charity money never touched a hospital, I said. It touched a handbag, a Botox clinic, and the illusion my sister called a lifestyle. Vanessa's face twisted. You have no right. A lot of people in this room had the right to know before being asked for more money tonight. Derek laughed loudly, but it came out wrong. This is a family dispute. Claire is an accountant. She likes making spreadsheets look scary. Correct, I said. I am an accountant, so let's talk about the business. The next slide showed the dealership name. Derek stopped laughing. I kept my voice even. Again, these are public records and legally obtained documents, outstanding vendor judgments, state tax liens, commercial credit warnings, negative revenue trends reflected in filings and related disputes, floor plan financing liabilities, unpaid property-related fees. The screen filled with a clean summary table. Not too much detail, just enough for financially literate guests to understand the scale. And many of them did. You could see recognition settle over the room like a shadow. A man near the bar, one of the private lenders from the guest list, stepped forward. Derek, are these numbers accurate? Derek spread his hands. You know how expansion works. Growth debt looks ugly before it pays off. That is not what he asked, I said. Derek pointed at me. You don't get to interpret my business. No, your creditors do. A few people looked down at their phones. One investor walked toward the hallway, already making a call. Another whispered to his wife. Tessa Brooks, still near the back, had stopped posing and was recording steadily now, her expression sharpened by opportunity. The event she had expected to flatter had become something better for her career, a fall. Charles stepped forward. My son-in-law's business has faced challenges, as many businesses do. That does not justify this grotesque public attack. I turned toward him. A struggling business can recover. A lying business cannot. My father's face hardened. I advanced the slide. Vehicle loss events and insurance timing. Derek's body changed before he spoke. His shoulders lifted, his jaw clenched, his hands curled slightly. Fear often announces itself in the body before pride can silence it. I am not a prosecutor, I said. I am not presenting criminal conclusions. I am showing a pattern that has already been referred to the appropriate investigators through counsel. The slide showed no accusations in bold red letters. No dramatic crime board, just VINs, claim dates, known loan payment deadlines, repair estimates, recorded disputes, and repeated total losses involving vehicles that had sat unsold or become financially inconvenient shortly before the incident. A woman in a black gown near the second row said, "Is that the fire from 2 years ago?" "Yes," someone beside her whispered. "I remember that." Derek shoved past Marissa and took 2 steps toward me. Hotel security moved at the same time, subtle but immediate. "This is stolen information," he snapped. "She stole private company documents." Marissa's voice carried cleanly. "Mr. Cole, counsel has preserved copies of all materials referenced tonight. Many are public records, others were obtained through lawful channels or provided in connection with formal complaints. If you believe otherwise, make that claim through your attorney." Derek looked at her with pure hatred. "Stay out of my family." "She is my client, Gressa," Marissa said. "That is not your decision." The ballroom had fully turned now. Not all against Derek yet, but away from the story he had built. That was enough. Fraud does not always collapse in a single blow. Sometimes it loses oxygen one breath at a time. I moved to the next slide. Notice of default. Evelyn made a small sound. The document was not flashy. Legal documents rarely are. But the effect was immediate because people in that room understood collateral. They understood debt. They understood that a fully paid family home pledged against a failing commercial loan was not a sentimental object anymore. It was security. "The Whitman family home," I said, and my voice, almost caught despite myself, was pledged as collateral for debt connected to Derek Cole's dealership. The loan is in default. The grace period has expired. The foreclosure process is not instantaneous, and nothing tonight changes the requirements of law. But the machinery has already started. My mother turned to my father. "Charles!" He did not look at her. Vanessa stared at Derek. For the first time in my life, I saw her looking at him not as a prize, not as a protector, not as the man who made her life look expensive, but as a threat. Ava stood near the front table in her glittering dress, one hand over her mouth. She had probably known nothing about collateral, liens, defaults, or investor solicitation. She had known about scissors and cruelty. She had known how to mock Nora. She had known how to perform superiority. But this was the adult machine behind the performance, and it had teeth. I took a breath. Earlier this week, my parents attempted to threaten me with removal from an estate that is already compromised by debt. Tonight, I am making clear to anyone being asked to invest, donate, lend, or participate that the family narrative being sold to you is materially incomplete. Derek said, "You bitch." It was not loud enough for the whole room, but it was loud enough. I tapped the final slide. Distressed debt acquisition. Adrian Vale was not in the room. That was deliberate. He did not need to be. His company's name did the work. The existing lender has agreed to sell the distressed debt position to a company represented by Adrian Vale's group. That transaction does not mean I own my parents' house. It does not mean I control foreclosure. It means the lender has changed, the default remains, and any future enforcement will proceed through legal channels without family pressure attached. Charles looked at me then with something beyond anger. Betrayal, maybe, which was rich, coming from a man who had pledged his home for Derek and then tried to use my supposed inheritance as a leash. "You did this," he said. "No," I said. "You signed the collateral documents. Derek defaulted. The bank sold risk. I stopped pretending the house was leverage over me." For a moment, the only sound in the ballroom was the low hum of the projector. Then Derek moved. It happened quickly, but I remember it in separate pieces. His face folding into rage, Vanessa shouting his name, Marissa stepping back, hotel security turning, Derek charging off the side of the stage toward the AV booth, one arm raised like he meant to grab the microphone, the tablet, me, anything he could still reach. He made it 6 steps before a broad-shouldered man in a dark suit intercepted him from the side. Not hotel security. Private security, I learned later, attached to one of the investors. Another guard closed in immediately. Derek struggled, swore, and tried to wrench himself free. From the side corridor, I heard Nora cry out. My heart stopped. I abandoned the microphone and moved toward the corridor. But Elise was already there, blocking the doorway with her body, while another staff member guided Nora farther back. Nora had seen part of it. Not all, but enough. Her face was white. "Mom!" she called. "I'm okay," I said, forcing my voice to stay steady. "I am okay. Stay with Elise." Her eyes filled with tears, but she nodded. That obedience hurt. She should have been allowed to be disobedient. She should have been allowed to be 10. Revenge feels clean in your imagination. In your mind, truth lands like lightning. Liars freeze, victims rise, the room understands. But real revenge, real consequence, has noise. People shout, glasses shake, children hear things through doors. Your body floods with adrenaline, and even when you are right, even when you have documentation, even when you have done everything through proper channels, you still wonder whether you have brought your child too close to the blast. Derek was restrained near the front of the ballroom, breathing hard, face red. "This is a setup," he shouted. "All of you are being played. She is obsessed with me. She has been jealous of this family for years." An investor near the bar said, "I want my check back." That broke the spell completely. Another man said, "I'm calling my bank." A woman in a gold gown turned to Vanessa. "You told me this was for Ava's foundation." Vanessa blinked. "It is. It was. We were going to—" "You asked me to introduce you to my husband's partners. That was Derek's business, not mine." The room erupted into controlled wealthy panic, which is not less chaotic than poor panic, only better dressed. People stepped into corners to make calls. A man demanded copies of whatever he had signed. Someone asked whether the event was being recorded. Tessa Brooks was absolutely recording. Charles tried to gather 3 men near the front and speak in a low, authoritative voice, but authority had drained from him. Without belief, he was just an old man in a tuxedo explaining a bad decision. Then the ballroom doors opened again. 2 local economic crimes officers entered first, followed by men and women in plain suits who did not need to announce themselves loudly to change the room. Federal financial investigators have a particular presence. Not dramatic, not like television, more like weather pressure before a storm. They did not rush. They did not shout. They moved with purpose toward Derek, toward Marissa, toward the hotel coordinator, toward the evidence now displayed on the screen. Derek went quiet for the first time all night. One of the officers spoke with the private security holding him. Another approached Marissa. I heard phrases, not full sentences. Ongoing review, complaint packet, active solicitation, need to speak with Mr. Cole, potential victims present, documentation preserved. No one read a grand list of charges in front of the champagne table. Real life is not that theatrical. Derek was detained on suspicion pending formal processing related to financial crimes. Later, people would throw around words like wire fraud, insurance fraud, bank fraud, unregistered security solicitation, fraudulent fundraising activity. Some would stick, some would evolve, some would become bargaining chips in rooms I never entered. That night, all that mattered was that Derek Cole, who had built his life on the assumption that confidence could outrun consequence, was being walked toward the ballroom doors with his hands restrained behind his back. The handcuffs did not create the truth. They only made it visible. Vanessa screamed. It was not the pretty crying from the video. It was raw, animal panic. "No, Derek, tell them she did this." She tried to follow, but an officer stepped in front of her. "This is my daughter's birthday!" she shouted, as if that sentence could reverse financial crime. "You are traumatizing my child!" Ava flinched at the word child. Vanessa turned on me then. All the softness left her face. "You ruined her life," she said. "You jealous, bitter, miserable." She grabbed a champagne flute from a passing tray. I saw it happen before anyone else did because I knew my sister's face. I had seen that look when we were children, right before she threw something and then cried because I had upset her. She lunged toward me with the glass raised. I stepped aside. Not dramatically, just enough. Her heel caught on the edge of the stage carpet. She fell hard, the flute shattering against the marble. For one suspended second, she lay there surrounded by broken glass in her silver gown. Then she started sobbing. Officers moved in, not roughly but firmly. Someone checked her hands for cuts. She shouted that I had pushed her. 3 people said I had not. Tessa's phone was still up. I did not feel triumph. That surprised me. I had imagined in darker moments that seeing Vanessa exposed would feel like justice with a pulse. Instead, she looked small. Not innocent. Never innocent. But small in the way people look when the fantasy that raised them finally abandons them. Vanessa had spent her life being protected from consequences by my parents, by men like Derek, by her own beauty, by her ability to cry first and explain later. Now consequence had arrived all at once, and she had no muscles for carrying it. Ava stood alone near the floral wall. Her friends, or the girls Vanessa had rented into friendship through status, stood several feet away whispering. Adults stared at her with pity, curiosity, or calculation. The giant cursive Ava behind her suddenly looked cruel. She turned her head and saw Nora in the side corridor, half hidden behind Elise. For a second, the 2 girls looked at each other. I expected Ava to glare, maybe to blame, maybe to perform the same contempt she had learned from Vanessa. Instead, her face crumpled. Nora did not smile. She did not look pleased. She looked sad. Not forgiving, exactly. Just sad in the way children sometimes are when they recognize another child has been living inside a different kind of cage. That moment did something to me. It did not absolve Ava. She had destroyed my dress. She had enjoyed being placed above Nora. She had been old enough to choose cruelty and young enough to have been trained into it. Both things were true. For one second, I did not see my sister's daughter. I saw another child being taught the wrong definition of love. Then Evelyn grabbed my sleeve. "Claire," she gasped. Her nails dug into the fabric of my blazer. The new black suit did not tear. I remember noticing that absurd detail. The green dress would have torn. The suit held. "Claire, please," she said. "Please, you have to stop this. You have to call someone. You know people. You know attorneys. Tell them Derek made mistakes, but he is not a criminal. Tell Adrian we can work something out. Tell him your father and I need the house. We can fix this privately. We can be a family again." There it was. The offer I had wanted my whole life, delivered only after the money ran out. Charles came up behind her, his face gray. "Claire," he said, and his voice was hoarse. "This has gone far enough." "No," I said. "It finally went exactly far enough for you to notice." He swallowed. "We can discuss the house. There are options. You can speak to Vale. You can explain that this is family property. Family property you pledged for Derek. I was trying to help Vanessa. You were risking everything for Vanessa. She is your sister. And Nora is your granddaughter." That silenced him. My mother's grip tightened. "Do not bring Nora into this." I looked at her hand on my sleeve, then at her face. "You brought Nora into this when you skipped her birthday and then demanded $10,000 for Ava's. You brought Nora into this when you let Derek threaten me. You brought Nora into this when someone destroyed her bicycle and left a note saying I should have paid. You brought Nora into this when Derek went to her school and said her name through a fence. Evelyn's eyes flicked toward the guests still watching. Even then, part of her was measuring the audience. "Lower your voice," she whispered. That almost made me laugh. "My daughter made you an invitation by hand," I said. My voice did not rise. It did not need to. "She wrote your name in purple pencil. She saved you the chair beside her because she wanted you to help cut the cake. She waited 2 hours. She watched the gate every time a car passed. Then she asked me if you forgot her because Ava was prettier." For the first time, Evelyn looked away. I kept going because if I stopped, I might never say it all. "You did not forget. None of you forgot. You chose not to come. You chose Derek's illusion, Vanessa's comfort, Ava's image, your own pride. And when I stopped pretending that was acceptable, you called the police on me, lied about me online, threatened my job, vandalized my child's property, and tried to use an inheritance made of debt as a leash." Charles said, "We did not know Derek would." "No," I said. "You do not get to put all of this on Derek. Derek did not make you ignore me when I was a child. Vanessa did not make you treat me like staff in my own family. Mom did not accidentally teach me that love had to be earned through usefulness. You all made choices. Derek just made them expensive." Evelyn began crying then. Real crying, I think. It was uglier than her usual tears, less polished. "I am your mother." "I know," I said. "That is why this took me so long. We can change, maybe, but not with me as your emergency fund." Charles's pride broke enough for desperation to show. "What do you want from us?" I thought about that. It was a question I had answered differently at every age. At 8, I wanted them to come to my school play and stay until the end. At 16, I wanted them to ask why I was so quiet. At 22, I wanted them to celebrate my job without asking how it could help Vanessa. At 34, before Nora's birthday, some wounded part of me still wanted an apology large enough to rewrite history. Now I wanted nothing. "That is the point," I said. "I do not want anything from you anymore." My mother flinched like I had struck her. I gently removed her hand from my sleeve. Then I looked at the woman who had taught me to beg silently and the man who had called obedience love. "You skipped Nora's 10th birthday, Bo," I said. "Consider tonight my gift for Ava's 15th. I turned away before either of them could answer. Nora was waiting near the side corridor with Elise. Her eyes were red, but she was standing. When I reached her, she slipped her hand into mine. "Can we go?" she whispered. "Yes." We walked through the hotel doors together. Behind us, Vanessa was still crying. Evelyn called my name once. Charles did not. Derek was being led outside through another exit. Guests clustered in nervous circles. The roses still smelled expensive. The chandelier still glittered. Ava's name still shone on the floral wall. None of it could hold the lie together anymore. For the first time in my life, I walked away from my family without turning around to see if they wanted me. We did not go home that night. We went upstairs to the hotel room where Nora took off her silver star dress and put on pajamas without saying much. I removed my heels and sat on the edge of the bed, suddenly so tired my bones felt hollow. The city lights blinked beyond the window. Somewhere below us, the hotel staff was probably cleaning broken glass off marble. Nora climbed into the bed beside me. "Mom?" "Yes." "Was that my fault?" The question came so softly I almost missed it. I turned toward her. "No, none of that was your fault." "If they came to my birthday, would it not have happened?" I closed my eyes briefly. There it was. The child's math. If I had been better, if I had been prettier, if I had not wanted them there, if I had not been born into this family, maybe the adults would have behaved. I knew that math. I had lived inside it for decades. "No," I said firmly. This happened because adults made wrong choices for a long time. Your birthday did not cause it. Your birthday revealed it. She looked at me. Like when you find numbers that don't match? Exactly like that. Nora was quiet. Then she said, Ava looked scared. I know. Is it bad that I felt sad for her? No. That means your heart still works. Do I have to be her friend? No. Do I have to hate her? No. She thought about that, then nodded. Okay. A few minutes later, she fell asleep with her head on my arm, the way she had when she was little. I stayed awake for hours. Not because I regretted what I had done. I did not. But because freedom does not arrive with trumpets. Sometimes it arrives in a hotel room after midnight, smelling faintly of room service fries and your daughter's shampoo, while your phone buzzes with calls you refuse to answer. Freedom is quiet at first. It has to make space where chaos used to live. By Monday morning, the story had escaped the ballroom. Local news reported that Derek Cole, owner of Cole Prestige Motors, was under investigation in connection with alleged financial irregularities involving insurance claims, investor solicitation, and business financing. They used careful words like alleged, suspected, pending, under review. Good. Careful words matter. The fundraiser disappeared first, then Vanessa's TikTok. Deleting a lie after it fails is not accountability, but it is evidence that the liar has lost confidence in it. Tessa Brooks posted a vague but devastating video about what happens when luxury branding meets financial reality, never naming every detail but showing enough of the ballroom, enough of the police presence, enough of Vanessa's meltdown blurred in the background to make half the city start digging. I did not watch it twice. I did not need to. Online attention is a blade without a handle. It can cut the person holding it too. At work, Elliot called me into his office again. This time, HR was not there. He had a printed letter on his desk from Marissa and another from outside counsel confirming that I had been the subject of a documented smear campaign involving false statements and attempted extortion. He gestured for me to sit. You handled this with unusual restraint, he said. I did not feel restrained. Feeling is not the same as conduct. That sentence stayed with me. He told me one client had specifically praised the way I protected documentation and avoided public speculation. Adrian's group had also informed the firm, through proper channels, that my analysis of distressed assets had helped identify a significant acquisition opportunity. There would be a bonus, a large one, not hush money, not sympathy, professional recognition. I accepted it with a steadier face than I felt. When I left Elliot's office, a junior associate who had avoided my eyes the week before stopped near the coffee machine and said, I am sorry. I looked at him. For what? For believing the video. He seemed embarrassed enough that I decided not to make it worse. Next time? Wait for documents. He nodded. I will. That was enough. The legal fallout did not become simple just because it became public. Derek did not vanish into prison overnight like a villain in a children's story. There were hearings, filings, continuances, sealed documents, attorneys speaking in careful statements. He remained in custody at first pending processing, then fought through counsel. Accounts connected to the dealership were frozen or restricted. Cars were repossessed. Vendors came forward faster once they realized they were not alone. Investors who had attended the Gala scrambled to stop payments or distance themselves. Insurance investigators widened their review. The business that had once looked glossy from the street began to show its structure. Leased glass, borrowed inventory, unpaid bills, and fear dressed as confidence. Vanessa filed for divorce within 3 weeks. She released a statement saying she had been deceived by her husband and was focusing on protecting her daughter. It was classic Vanessa. Victimhood with good lighting. I believed Derek had lied to her about some things, I also believe she had chosen not to ask questions as long as the answers came wrapped in designer bags. Both truths could coexist. My parents' house moved through the foreclosure process. Not instantly, not dramatically. There were notices, deadlines, legal responses, attempts to negotiate, and finally the reality that debt does not care how many Christmas cards were photographed in a living room. Adrian's company did not call me for permission. I did not intervene. That was the boundary. I had opened a door to consequence. I did not stand there directing traffic. When Evelyn and Charles left the house, I did not go watch. I did not want that image in my mind. A neighbor sent me a photo without asking, because people love to deliver pain and call it information. I deleted it without opening fully. Later, I heard they moved into a small rental with Vanessa and Ava. The thought did not make me happy. That matters. I did not celebrate my parents losing their home. I did not pour champagne over their misery. I simply refused to rescue them from the math they created. Nora started seeing a therapist the week after the gala. So did I. Hers had a waiting room with soft chairs and a basket of worry stones. Mine had gray walls and a woman named Dr. Patel who asked questions so gently they still managed to cut. On our third session, she asked what I missed about my family. I said, nothing. She waited. I said, the idea of them. She nodded. Tell me about the idea. That was when I cried. Not for Evelyn as she was, not for Charles as he was, not for Vanessa. I cried for the imaginary mother who would have arrived early to Nora's birthday with flowers, the imaginary father who would have taken pictures and said he was proud of me, the imaginary sister who would have helped tape ribbons to chairs, the imaginary family I had kept alive inside myself because letting them die felt like becoming completely alone. Grief for people who are still alive is strange. There's no funeral, no casserole, no public permission. Everyone expects you to be grateful they are breathing, but sometimes the person you needed never existed. Sometimes all you are bearing is the hope that they might still arrive. About a month after the gala, Charles called from an unknown number. I almost did not answer. Something made me pick up. Maybe habit, maybe curiosity, maybe the last small thread of daughter still attached somewhere inside me. Claire, he said. His voice was different, thin, older, without the old command in it. How did you get this number? He ignored that. Your mother is not well. I closed my eyes. There it was again. Need as doorway. I am sorry to hear that. We are in a difficult situation. I know. Vanessa is impossible. Ava barely speaks. The rental is not suitable for your mother. Everything happened so quickly. No, I said. It happened slowly. You only noticed quickly. He was silent. Then he began to cry. I had heard my father angry, dismissive, impatient, proud, and cold. I had almost never heard him cry. The sound unsettled me more than I wanted it to. I made mistakes, he said. I said nothing. I trusted Derek. I thought I was protecting the family. You were protecting Vanessa's image. She is my daughter. So am I. The silence after that was long enough to become its own answer. Finally, he said, I understand that now. I wanted to believe him. God help me, some part of me still wanted to. But wanting is not evidence. What do you want, Dad? He exhaled shakily. Your house has a finished basement. The old Claire would have gone numb, then guilty, then practical. She would have thought about space, logistics, conditions, temporary arrangements. She would have told herself Nora deserved grandparents, and maybe suffering had changed them. She would have mistaken collapse for transformation. The new Claire looked across the kitchen at Nora's newest drawing taped to the fridge. It showed a pink bicycle with wings. No, I said. He made a wounded sound. You have not even heard me. I heard you before you called. We have nowhere appropriate to go. You have options. They are just not options you like. Claire, please. We can be a real family. Your mother and I have learned our lesson. No, I said. You have experienced consequences. That is not the same as learning. His voice hardened slightly, instinct returning. So you would let your parents suffer? I am letting my parents live with the results of their choices. Vanessa manipulated us. Vanessa did not make you miss Nora's birthday. Derek pressured me. Derek did not make you threaten me with the will. Your mother was emotional. Mom did not accidentally call the police on me. He breathed heavily into the phone. I continued, calmer than I felt. You do not get to outsource your accountability to the people you enabled. You chose Vanessa over me for years. You chose appearance over truth. You chose control over repair. You chose to treat me like an asset, not a daughter. And when I stopped performing usefulness, you tried to punish me. I am saying I am sorry. No, I said. You are saying you need housing. That landed. I heard it. After a while, he said, What happened to you? It was meant as an accusation. I received it as a blessing. I became Nora's mother before I was your daughter. He said my name again, but there was nothing left in it that could hold me. Do you remember the check? I asked. What? The $1 check. Final family contribution. He did not answer. That dollar was my severance package from a family that had emotionally bankrupted me. Then I hung up. My hands shook afterward. Do not let anyone tell you boundaries feel strong the moment you set them. Sometimes they feel like nausea. Sometimes they feel like cruelty wearing your voice. I sat at the kitchen table for 10 minutes, breathing through the aftershock. Then I called Marissa, documented the contact, changed my number, and updated the protective instructions tied to Nora's school, my home, and my office. That evening, Nora asked why I looked tired. Grandpa called, I said. She froze. Are they coming here? No. Promise? I promise. Her shoulders dropped with relief so visible it broke my heart again. That was all the confirmation I needed that I had made the right choice. A child should not be relieved that her grandparents are not coming over. And if she is, the answer is not to force reconciliation. The answer is to protect the child. The bonus hit my account 2 weeks later. I stared at the number longer than I should have. Money has a sound when you grew up emotionally dependent on people who used it as a leash. Not an actual sound, a feeling, a door unlocking, a storm moving farther away. My family had always treated money as control. Who owed whom? Who deserved help? Who was selfish? Who should be grateful? Who had to attend, smile, apologize, contribute, rescue? I made an appointment with an estate attorney. Her office was on the 22nd floor of a building that overlooked the river. She was a compact woman with silver hair and a direct manner that made me trust her immediately. We spent 3 hours building protections around Nora's future, an irrevocable trust for education, health, first home assistance, and long-term independence. Clear exclusions. No access for Evelyn, Charles, Vanessa, Derek, or any associated creditor. No emergency family claims. No sentimental loopholes disguised as reconciliation. If something happened to me, Nora would not become a financial resource for the people who had already tried to use her pain as pressure. When I signed the documents, I thought I would feel triumphant. Instead, I felt solemn. This was not revenge money. This was boundary money. This was a fence around my daughter's future. This was every locked door I had needed as a child and never had. I went home and found Nora in the backyard drawing with sidewalk chalk. She had covered the patio with flowers, stars, and a crooked Eiffel Tower because she had recently become fascinated with Paris. I stood there watching her for a while before she noticed me. Mom, does this look like France? It looks like France, if France had more purple clouds. Maybe it should. Maybe it should. She sat back on her heels. Can we move somewhere with a bigger backyard? I had not told her yet. The senior director role had come through that morning. another state. Better compensation. A firm that wanted my specialty without the local gossip. A city where Nora could be Nora Whitman, not the daughter from that ballroom video, not the girl whose grandmother skipped her birthday, not the child connected to a family scandal people whispered about at pickup. Yes, I said. Actually, we can. She looked up slowly. Really? Really? Like move? Like new house, new school, bigger backyard move. Her face filled with cautious joy, the kind children develop when they have learned good news can be interrupted. Can I paint my room? Yes. Any color? Within reason. Can reason be lavender? Reason can absolutely be lavender. She smiled. Then the smile faded slightly. Will they know where we live? No. That was the answer that made her smile come back fully. I sold the house off market. Not because I was ashamed of it, but because I wanted clean movement. No open houses, no curious neighbors, no family members appearing in driveways. The couple who bought it had a toddler and another baby on the way. When I signed the closing documents, I thought I would cry. That house had been my proof that I could build something without my parents. It had been Nora's first real backyard. Her chalk drawings, her lost teeth, her winter boots by the door. It had also become police lights, threats, broken bicycles, cameras, and fear. Letting it go felt less like losing a home and more like releasing a witness. Packing was harder than I expected. Nora wanted to keep everything, then nothing, then everything again. We made 3 piles. Keep, donate, maybe. The maybe pile became a mountain. In the garage, we found the last piece of her ruined bicycle, a pink handlebar ribbon I had tucked into a box without thinking. She held it for a long time. Can I get another pink bike? She asked. Of course. Not blue? Not unless you want blue. I want pink. Then pink? She looked at me with sudden seriousness. They don't get to take pink from me. I smiled, but my throat hurt. No, baby, they do not get to take pink from you. Before the move, I booked one thing that made no practical sense and perfect emotional sense. Paris. 2 weeks. Just Nora and me. I used points, miles, and a small portion of the bonus I had not locked away. Some people might call that excessive after a family financial disaster. I called it a birthday correction. Nora had wanted a storybook garden and got 5 empty chairs. I could not undo that, but I could show her there was a world beyond the people who failed to arrive. I told her at the airport we were not flying directly to our new city yet. Nora thought we had a layover before the move. She wore leggings, sneakers, and a hoodie with embroidered moons on the sleeves. Her carry-on was covered in stickers. We sat near the window of the airport lounge because I had decided that if we were starting over, we were doing it with snacks and decent chairs. A server brought Nora hot chocolate with whipped cream and me a glass of champagne. Nora looked at the champagne suspiciously. Is that moving juice? Something like that. I handed her an envelope. She opened it carefully because she had always believed envelopes deserved respect. Inside was a printed picture of the Eiffel Tower and 2 boarding passes. Her mouth fell open. Mom, happy real birthday. We're going to Paris? We are. Like now? Like tonight. She stared at the boarding passes, then at me, then back at the boarding passes. But my suitcase has normal clothes. Paris allows normal clothes. Do they allow sketchbooks? They insist on them. She launched herself into my arms so hard my champagne nearly spilled. For the first time in weeks, her joy was uncomplicated. No gate watching, no whispered question about whether someone would come, no fear tucked under the smile. Just joy. On the plane, Nora fell asleep before dinner service ended. Her head against my shoulder, one hand still loosely holding the edge of her sketchbook. Outside the window, the clouds glowed under moonlight, soft and endless. I sat there with my daughter safe beside me and let myself think about what freedom had cost. It cost me the fantasy of my mother. Not Evelyn as she was, but the version I had carried like a candle in a dark room. The mother who might one day apologize without needing something. The mother who might remember Nora's favorite flowers. The mother who might look at me and see a daughter instead of a resource. It cost me the fantasy of my father, the man who might one day say he was proud without turning it into advice. The man who might admit obedience was not love. The man who might protect me from the family hierarchy instead of enforcing it. It cost me Vanessa, or rather the sister I had invented in the spaces where the real one hurt too much. It cost me the hope that Ava and Nora could grow up close, that cousins could repair what sisters had broken, that the next generation might be spared without anyone making hard choices. It cost me my house, my phone number, familiar streets, easy routines, and the last fragile belief that if I just explained myself clearly enough, people committed to misunderstanding me would stop. But it bought something too. It bought Nora sleeping without asking if the doors were locked. It bought a trust no creditor in my family could touch. It bought a school where she could introduce herself without a scandal attached. It bought a backyard where she could ride a pink bicycle again. It bought silence from people who had mistaken access for love. It bought me the right to stop answering calls that only rang when someone needed rescue. And maybe bought is not the right word. Maybe I had earned those things long before and only finally stopped handing them over. I looked down at Nora. Her eyelashes rested against her cheeks. A small smear of chocolate still marked the corner of her mouth. In sleep, she looked peaceful in a way that made something inside me unclench. I thought of the empty garden chairs. I thought of the $1 check. I thought of the shattered champagne flute, the projector light, my mother's hand on my sleeve, my father's voice on the phone, the bicycle ribbon, the trust documents, the boarding passes. For most of my life, I believed family was something you endured, a debt you paid in silence, a room you kept entering even after it hurt you. I thought being good meant being available. I thought forgiveness meant giving people another chance to do the same damage with better language. I thought love required me to stay close enough to be useful. I was wrong. Love protects. Love tells the truth. Love shows up to the garden party. Love does not send a child to bed wondering why she was not enough. Love does not demand $10,000 after leaving 5 chairs empty. Love does not weaponize police, strangers, schools, money, or fear. And when people keep calling their control love, sometimes the most loving thing you can do for your child is leave before she learns to believe them. I did not destroy my family. I stopped funding the version of them that was destroying me. And somewhere above the clouds, with my daughter sleeping safely beside me, I finally understood that cutting off dead weight is not cruelty. Sometimes, it is the only way you learn how to fly.